My name's Jennifer Lauer. I'm the founder and executive director of the Southern Wisconsin Paranormal Research Group.
And I'm Dave Schumacher, the Science and Technology Advisor with the Southern Wisconsin Paranormal Research Group.
The SWPRG was founded back in 1999, and what we do is investigate, research, and document paranormal activity as it relates to ghosts and hauntings. Actually, Dave and I just wrote a book called Investigating the Haunted, Ghost Hunting Taken to the Next Level. We've been asked on so many different occasions to come along with us and see what we do on an investigation. Unfortunately, because of the confidentiality requirements that we are asked by our clients, we're not allowed to do that. So that's what you're here for today. We're actually going to take you along with us on an investigation, show you how we do it, what we do.
All right, you ready? Let's go inside and get started.
Okay.
Right. Cool place.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like something to drink?
Yeah, it'd be great. Thanks. Well, that's Mary. Mary contacted us through our website because she's been having a lot of really strange things happening in this wonderful, beautiful house that we're in today. And so what we did is we sent Mary a list of questions that we send all of our clients who are interested in having us come in and do an investigation. There's about 150 questions, and it gives us a really good idea of what we're dealing with, what she's experiencing, and how she perceives it. So then, of course, we
take a look at those questions, and we decide if we should progress just based looking at those. But what we did before we got here to do the full investigation is that we did a pre-investigation, and the pre-investigation involved us coming in and having Mary take us through the house and show us where everything's been happening, and we also tried to look for natural explanations at the same time. And while we were here, we took baseline readings with electromagnetic fields, radiation, ion counts, just to see if there's something going on in the house. So if we get to the point where we can't explain anything naturally, then we want to come back in and do a full investigation, and that's what we're here to do today.
So Mary, this is kind of where we kind of a question and answer type thing. So I just really want to know what the reason is you called us and what's been going on here.
When we first bought the place, we were remodeling, and I had my purse and coat hanging on the back of the bathroom door, and it was closed. When I went to go into the bathroom, the door was locked, and it's got like a lock that you have to completely turn it around. We started to jimmy the lock with a knife, and we thought we were going to tear it up, and then it just all of a sudden unlocked and came open.
Wow.
So that was pretty freaky.
Okay.
Then we've heard what we believe to be footsteps upstairs going across the floor.
Do you know if anything's happened here in the past that may have brought on some paranormal activity? Yeah.
We were told by one of the previous owners that a lady had died in the house, an elderly lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any information about the house, like its history or anything?
Well, I know it was a one-family ownership before we bought it.
Okay. Has anything been increasing or decreasing, or have you noticed any like times where it happens more often, like maybe in the fall or summer, or any anniversaries or anything like that?
The bathroom doors deal only happened one time, and that was in the winter. The walking across the floor occurs quite often, actually.
Okay. Is there any kind of frequency to it, like every other night, or, I mean, can you find any kind of...
Well, when we're home, because we're
Right.
working on the other house, a lot of times we'll be sitting in the living room watching TV, and it'll be like a pause in the sound and everything on the TV, and then we'll hear a couple of footsteps, you know.
Okay.
And I'd say that probably on the average of once every other month.
Do you notice, like, when these things are happening, that if your mood's changing at all, or are you, upset or stressed or anything like that, that you can notice any consistency in?
Well, not really.
All right. Well, there is a couple pieces of paperwork here that we do need you to agree to or to fill out.
Okay.
It's an investigation permission form. It pretty much just gives the Southern Wisconsin Paranormal Research Group permission to be here and do the investigation. And then also we have the information release form. And we can do this to whatever way you want. If you want complete anonymity, we can do that. If you want everybody to know your address and full names and stuff, we can do that too. So it's all up to you. But this is just our way of being able to use the information that we gather during the investigation of this house against other investigations and try to find some correlations and that type of thing. So it helps us.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? Okay.
Locking door.
Okay. So now,
That
me what
thumb.
happened here.
Okay, the thumbnail here turned around by itself,
okay.
and locked me out.
Okay.
Then we started messing with. Well, we didn't do that, but like a knife or something. I can't remember for sure. Crowbar or something, and it just unlocked itself and opened up.
All right.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll check that out a little bit more.
Definitely.
All right, thanks.
Okay. This is the room that I was talking about where I hear the footsteps below in the living room.
Okay.
So it runs the long way? or
Yes,
is
lengthwise.
okay.
Well, what's it sound like? And when you're
Well,
downstairs?
to me, it's like if you're walking on a bare wood floor and the boards are creaking. That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No?
All right. Well, why don't we head out this way and go downstairs and
Okay.
get started?
Okay. Well, that's about all I have to show you guys.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else you want to ask her before we get started?
No, everything, we covered pretty much everything.
Okay. Well, Mary, what we're going to do now is we're going to start setting the equipment up, get the cameras in place, put them in locations where you told us things have happened. We're going to set up the direct environmental data logging system, and we're going to get Troy and Derek, who are two investigators with the Southern Wisconsin Paranormal Research Group, to get started on mapping the location, getting a floor plan together for us, as well as doing baseline sweeps, and then going through and doing some data sweeps. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask us.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Cindy Heinen, and I'm the EVP specialist for the group. We'll be recording EVP today, which is electronic voice phenomena. That's the picking up of spirit voices on either cassette recorders or IC recorders. I want to use an analog recorder in addition to the digital recorders because the analog actually has a lot better fidelity, a lot better sound quality than these digital note takers, which don't really give you the voice reproduction that you would need. And so they will often morph and distort sound, and the cassette recorders actually will give you a much clearer sound so you can compare your sounds that you have to listen to, your voices. These are unidirectional microphones. I like these because it does give me a wider area to record from, and since we really don't know where EVPs come from, it's best just to kind of like cover all your bases. Using two microphones and two different recorders at the same time. That way that gives us a backup so we can check any unusual sound that we get on either recorder to make sure it's not of a normal sound or somebody's whispering or something like that. I like using these cuff-style headphones because they really give a nice seal. It's really important for EVP that you listen carefully, and these types will cover your ears completely. So these are actually scanner headphones that they would use in a racing situation. So they cut noise by about 20 decibels, so it's also a quiet environment. This is Cindy Heinen, and this is EVP Session 1 for the Wisconsin investigation. It is now 1:15 p.m. on September 8th. We are trying to reach spirits and record your voices. So please come by the microphones and put your voices on the cassette and the IC recorder for me. Can you please tell me your name? Did you used to live in this house? I want to note that there is a clock ticking. There is also the sound of the monitor running. Did you have a family that lived here? Did you die here? Do you like the family who now lives here? Are you trying to get their attention by making noises? Do you mind that I'm here asking questions? I want to note a cough from another investigator. I'm going to record for just a few seconds. Thank you for coming today, and I hope we picked up some voices. We'll be doing another session in a little while. Thank you. It is now 1:15.
So Cindy, what did you get?
Well, I have one thing. Let me play it for you.
Again?
What's interesting about this is that I did compare it to the cassette, and there is no EVP on the cassette recorder. This is strictly off the IC. So that's a step towards our validation that it is authentic.
And nobody remembers hearing anything at the time that this was recorded?
Nobody mentioned anything to me, and I didn't note anything at that time.
Radio frequency counter was running. We didn't pick up anything at the time. So I guess what I want to do at this point is go ahead and take what you got and compare it against any of the data that was recorded at the time and see if anything matches up. All right?
That would be great.
Good. Thanks a lot,
Cindy.
People have reported changes in the electromagnetic field in locations that have paranormal activity. Not only have they reported that in the field, but in laboratory studies, they've shown that electromagnetic fields, when they're administered to the head, can cause people to have paranormal-like experiences, not quite as clear or historically accurate as what people report in a haunted house or where there's a ghost, but they do have experiences such as seeing shadows in their peripheral vision, having feelings of foreboding, pretty much everything that you would have attributed to a haunting. So we want to check for those to see if there's some natural cause as well. Not only do we monitor the 50 and 60 hertz fields, but we also monitor natural EM fields. And this natural EM field meter is able to detect a 0.5% change in the Earth's magnetic field, so it's very sensitive. This one is nice, and I like to use it because it has a magnetic setting, an electric setting, as well as a sum setting. So you can do one or the other or both at the same time and get a sum reading. Now this meter you do have to leave in one spot when you're using it. You don't want to walk around with it because any little change in its orientation will affect the reading. So you would turn it on and it'll zero out, and then when it detects a change it'll give a reading, and then when that change is done it goes back down to zero. So again, very important to leave this one still. Now, we like to use a variety of different electromagnetic field meters because we don't really know what frequency we're looking for. So if you can cover as many of your bases as you can, it'll be advantageous because you're going to be able to collect more data and hopefully figure out what's going on with the paranormal activity. The next piece of equipment is an air ion counter. Now we use this because there have been reports in literature that support the fact that an increased amount of positive ions in an area can lead to negative feelings, feelings of foreboding, fear, and those are all naturally caused. However, in areas where they reported paranormal activity, there's been an excess of positive and negative ion counts. So that's just another area we want to take a look at and see if that is consistently happening at different paranormal locations. So this one, because people have reported changes in the electromagnetic field in locations that have paranormal activity. Not only have they reported that in the field, but in laboratory studies, they've shown that electromagnetic fields, when they're administered to the head, can cause people to have paranormal-like experiences, not quite as clear or historically accurate as what people report in a haunted house or where there's a ghost, but they do have experiences such as seeing shadows in their peripheral vision, having feelings of foreboding, pretty much everything that you would have attributed to a haunting. So we want to check for those to see if there's some natural cause as well. Not only do we monitor the 50 and 60 hertz fields, but we also monitor natural EM fields. And this natural EM field meter is able to detect a 0.5% change in the Earth's magnetic field, so it's very sensitive. This one is nice, and I like to use it because it has a magnetic setting, an electric setting, as well as a sum setting. So you can do one or the other or both at the same time and get a sum reading. Now this meter you do have to leave in one spot when you're using it. You don't want to walk around with it because any little change in its orientation will affect the reading. So you would turn it on and it'll zero out, and then when it detects a change it'll give a reading, and then when that change is done it goes back down to zero. So again, very important to leave this one still. Now, we like to use a variety of different electromagnetic field meters because we don't really know what frequency we're looking for. So if you can cover as many of your bases as you can, that's going to be advantageous because you're going to be able to collect more data and hopefully figure out what's going on with the paranormal activity. The next piece of equipment, air ion counter. Now we use this because there have been reports in literature that support the fact that an increased amount of positive ions in an area can lead to negative feelings, feelings of foreboding, fear, and those are all naturally caused. However, in areas where they reported paranormal activity, there's been an excess of positive and negative ion counts. So that's just another area we want to take a look at and see if that is consistently happening at different paranormal locations. So this one is a easy to use meter. You just turn it on and you can set your polarity to negative or positive, and then you can zero it out and you turn it on measure and you're pretty much ready to go. And it's going to give you the positive and negative ion counts, and you can use that in order to see if there's any increased ion concentrations in any area. So a lot of people have reported cold spots in a haunting, ghostly activity. How do we try to find out if they're real temperature changes or something else? Because I know myself and others in the group have experienced cold spots, but the temperature readings didn't say that there was actually a drop in temperature. But the equipment we were using in order to do that is first a non-contact infrared thermometer, and this one you just press the button and shoot, and whatever it comes into contact with, it's going to give you the temperature. I don't use these all that much. We do use them a little bit, but the problem is mainly that these have to hit something with sufficient mass in order to work properly and give you a temperature reading. And we really don't know if ghosts have mass. As of now, we assume they don't, because somebody would have been able to get some more consistent, solid either video or touching them or other types of evidence. So this you have to be careful with because we just don't know what a ghost is made of. Also, a lot of people will use these and they're scanning the area and then they'll hit a window or a cold surface such as a fireplace, bricks, it might be warm too, and they think they have a change in the temperature, but it's really just what the beam is hitting and there's nothing paranormal about it at all. So it's probably best to use an ambient air thermometer in addition to your non-contact one. And this is a very simple one you can buy at pretty much any store. You can just pop the probe off and it gives you an ambient air temperature reading. This is a little more accurate than the non-contact one, again, because it doesn't have to come into contact with anything. It just gives you an actual ambient air temperature reading. So that's basically it for the handheld equipment that we use. The next very important piece of equipment that the SWPRG uses that we designed and developed is called the DEAD system, and that stands for the Direct Environmental Acquisition Data Logging System. And it's comprised of two laptops. And the first laptop is set up to monitor electromagnetic fields, natural EM, and radiation. And I'll take you through each one of these meters. This is a triaxial ELF magnetic field meter, and I like this meter because it takes one reading every second. Again, it has a wide frequency range. It's most accurate in the 50 to 60 hertz range, but it can read others as well. It'll go ahead and take a reading every second, and it'll take a reading on the X, Y, and then kind of through the middle Z axes. So you're actually getting a reading of the whole area, so you don't have to worry about orienting your meter a bunch of different ways in order to get a reading. Some of the single axis meters, you really have to kind of move them around a lot to make sure you're covering all your bases. This one, you don't have to do that. So it's hooked up to the laptop computer, and as you can see here, it's recording the data from the meter, and it also gives a graphical display as well. It is date time stamped, which is very important so we can correlate it with all the other pieces of equipment and the video that we collect at the same time. The next piece of equipment that's hooked up to this laptop is the Tri-Field Natural EM meter, and we covered that in the handheld section, so I'm not going to go over that in detail, but what's different with this one is it's been modified in order to be data logged. It was modified to hook up to this data logger, and it records a reading about every second continuously. And this data logger also contained within itself measures relative humidity, temperature, light intensity, and then you can also add some other external probes to it. So that plugs back into the laptop computer again, date time stamp, and you can correlate it with everything else. The final piece of equipment that's attached to this laptop computer is a radiation detector. Now we're using the radiation detector in order to monitor the environment for changes in the radiation. There's been many reports that there's changes in the radiation when there's paranormal activity. One of the most common ones is if you ever saw the movie The Entity. That was an actual case, and it was investigated by parapsychologists and psychologists from UCLA. And they noted that when paranormal activity occurred, there was a drop in the background radiation levels. So we've seen drops in the background radiation levels on our investigations, but we've also seen increases as well. Now this piece of equipment will monitor alpha, beta, and gamma radiation, so it covers the spectrum of the different types of radiation, so we can look for increases or drops. It doesn't matter what type of radiation it is, it covers the whole thing. So again, that does feed into the laptop computer. It gives a graphical display, and it records counts per minute, takes a reading ever so often, drops it into the computer, and it records it as well. The next laptop has something hooked up to it that's called a fluxgate magnetometer. This is a very highly sophisticated, high-speed magnetic field meter. It'll take a reading, it'll take actually 300 to 400 readings every second. So we're getting a very, very detailed view of what's going on in the electromagnetic field. That is also fed into the computer. You get a graphical display while you're running it, and it also data records everything as well. Now, this is even more useful and beneficial because we can take the data, drop it into a software program, do some quick analysis, and not only does it tell us, how high or how low the magnetic field is, or if there is changes on the X, Y, or Z axes, but it also tells us what frequency that the electromagnetic field is at. So that'll be something useful as far as hopefully determining what type of frequency we're looking at with these paranormal events. The other thing we look at this for is because, again, laboratory studies have shown that these very small changes in the electromagnetic field can cause you to experience things that you might think are paranormal: hallucinations, peripheral vision, shadows, sounds, voices. So we want to make sure we get a very detailed look at that in the field so we can hopefully correlate what they found in the lab to in the field, and maybe rule out either some natural causes or maybe figure out what's going on with some of the paranormal causes as well. The last piece of equipment that's attached to this laptop computer that we've just begun using is an ultrasound motion detector. This works basically like bat radar. It sends out an ultrasound wave, and when it comes into contact with something with sufficient mass, we get a reading. This thing will tell us how far away the object is, the velocity it's moving at, as well as if it's accelerating or decelerating. Feeds it all back into the laptop computer, and a date time stamps it, so we're able to take a look at it later and try to correlate it with the other information and experiences and data that people have gathered during the investigation. Now, we don't know what ghosts are made of. If they're made of mass, this might be something to help us determine that. I mean, if there's a lot of paranormal activity going on and we're not getting any readings on this, well, maybe that means there isn't anything there of sufficient mass. So it's just another piece of equipment in our arsenal in order to try to figure out what's going on with this type of activity. Now, a lot of other groups and people use the passive infrared motion detectors, and those are the ones that are similar to what you see in the home security systems and the door alarms that tell you when your door's opening and closing. This does work a little different. It does have to have sufficient mass in order for it to give a reading. So it might be beneficial if you want to experiment and play around is to use both of these at the same time. Now we're going to set the dead system up outside the bathroom door that Mary reported would lock by itself and they couldn't get it open. So we got the laptop up and running. We're going to connect the sensors, and the sensors we're going to use in this location are the electromagnetic field detector, the natural electromagnetic field meter, and it's also going to monitor the light intensity, the relative humidity, and the temperature, as well as we're going to monitor the radiation levels here too. So our sensors are plugged in, and we're going to go ahead and start up the software, and we're just going to make sure that we are on the right sensor and the communication is set up. And the first screen that'll come up here, as you can see, shows the actual readings from the meter. And I'm going to pull up the graph so we can get a nice graphical visual display of what's happening with the readings. And you can see it is picking up the electromagnetic field. It's running about an average of 5 milligauss right now. And we'll keep an eye on that and see if we get any deviations from what we would consider more or less a baseline reading at this point. And then I'm next going to open up the radiation detector, and this will pull up something very similar to that. It's going to monitor the readings off of the actual sensor, and it is going to data log all this material. So we're just going to let this run for a while and see what happens. Well, I'm glad Cindy was able to get in here early and get the EVP done before she had to take off for the day. But
where's Troy and Derek?
I don't know. We got to get them in here. We got a lot of work that needs to be done.
Let me give them a call, see where they are.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a hold of them.
That's probably them.
Is that
now.
them? Let's see.
Hey,
Hey! What's up? Hey, Derek. How you doing?
See you.
Hey, glad you guys made it. We got a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm glad you're here. You got to get the mapping done. I want you guys to get the baseline readings and the data sweeps going. So got a lot of work to do, so why don't we get started?
Got some equipment?
Yeah, why don't you just put that over there until we need it, and let's go ahead and get going. All right.
Hi, my name is Troy Hartman, and I'm a lead investigator with the SWPRG.
My name is Derek Arneson, and I'm an investigator with the SWPRG.
So when we come to an investigation, the first thing we like to do is map the location and do some sweeps with some of our handheld meters. We got the tri-field natural EMF meter, just the tri-field meter for any mad main stuff, and we have a thermometer, like a ambient air temperature thermometer with a probe on it.
Usually when we go on our little investigations, Troy is usually like sweeping the area where he like takes the equipment around and he kind of analyzes every little bit and square area of the...
And then I'll shout out those readings to Derek, and he'll write them down, record them.
And I usually mark off like air vents that could cause anything that like temperature changes, electrical outlets, switches that would cause EMF and that could affect the mind or whatever. So.
Right. Pretty much is anything natural that could explain the paranormal activity that the homeowner is experiencing. So we like to look at everything, lights, outlets, and just that kind of stuff. So.
And usually when we go back over evidence later on, the map is there to like pinpoint like, well, there's a weird reading here, and we can usually say, well, there's a vent there, or we can go over all the evidence we have for research.
It's a backup basically to in case we have experience something with on the cameras or video, whatever. So the best thing to do is show you how we do it. So let's get in there. So sit down here, set up some meters, get the natural EMF set up. You have to set that down because it'll pick up movement of your hand, your body. So you kind of want to stay away from it a little bit and not move so much. All right. That's bearing at 3. All right.
The room is pretty evenly square. I don't see many. There's one vent on the floor there. It looks like.
All right.
Could affect anything.
On the tri-field meter, already I have to set it to a 0 to 100 range because the 0 to 3 range is already bearing. So we're getting a steady 5.5 milligauss.
5.5. All right.
Around the door. It jumps up to about an 8 milligauss. Let me just.
Maybe there's a wire in the wall, or
Possibly. It might even be just light. I don't know. What is the natural doing? I'm gonna move it and let it sit. Yeah, it's almost a dead stick 0.
that's on the sink.
That's no. Yeah, that's on the sink.
Okay.
It's on magnetic right now. All right, and temperature. Gotta let this sit for a second so I can. Did some ambient air. 82.0.
82.2.
Feels warmer than that in here. $81.9.
Okay, so it's above 80.
Yeah. All right. I'll check that again in a little bit. Basically, you wanna sweep the whole room, top to bottom, and note any lights flickered. Do you see that?
Yeah, it was like it's not like a furnace went on or something, or like
Did it?
something
Kinda hard.
downstairs.
Yes, but like I was saying, you want to sweep the whole room top to bottom, and anything extremely high you want to mark. If nothing else, if it's really high in the milligauss range and like the, I don't know, above 10, it has been noted that that can cause feelings of foreboding and just feeling of a presence, seeing shadow people, sick feelings. And that's just, natural, so it's nothing paranormal. All right. And yeah, as we get closer to the vent, we're bearing it into the 20 milligauss. So
It's a steady though too,
Yeah.
so it's a constant source of electricity.
So did you get the vent?
I got the vent, got the lights, switch,
Mirrors.
overhead lights, mirror, yes.
There is a window there.
Okay.
Let me see. I
Any
don't think there's any.
plug-ins the wall anywhere?
Yeah, they're actually right here on the light.
Oh, okay.
And the switch is over there. Yeah, so got everything you need?
I got everything I need.
All right, let's try to debunk this door.
All right.
She says it's gonna move here. She says it's locked on her.
From the, well, of course, they only locked on the inside.
Was she
so-
inside? When that happened?
I heard she had her stuff in here, and then they couldn't get
Oh.
it open. Nobody was inside.
All right, let's check it out. Do you want to?
This lock right now? Oh no.
Why don't we just try first closing it, and you try just opening it, and then I'll lock it, and then you try opening it,
Okay.
and then we'll just try to different pressures on there to see if there's a spot on the door where it does stick.
Okay.
It's a little bit harder to open.
Yeah. Well, this door feels pretty loose, doesn't it? It's like,
This lock, just a little bit would have, just see how it sticks out just a little
yeah.
bit? I'm betting that's probably what it was. It was just a little bit, and then just, messing around with it, got it back in.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just try it.
Okay.
This is it unlocked first. See how? All right, try opening it, Derek.
Pretty easy.
See, and it's a separate bolt, so it's not that. That's weird. Okay. Well, I'm gonna lock it now, and you just try opening it
Okay.
with the. All right, try it. And actually, what I'm looking at right now, and I said that if it's open a little bit,
Yeah.
but actually you can see it before it even hits the hole. It has to be out like that far almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So actually, let me try setting it so it's just a little bit
Little
on.
bit? Okay.
And then see if you can rattle it and try to get it to open.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's full.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, try it now. It's just hooked a little bit. Keep trying. Keep rattling it. All right, stop. Let me try it. Just make it a little bit less on. Okay, try it now.
Feels pretty tight right there.
Can you turn the knob? You're not even, yeah, there you go.
Oh, I don't think the knob affected it though.
But you still have to
yeah,
turn the knob to open the door.
Duh.
Try that. Yeah, try that
Okay.
again. Okay, now it's just barely on. Hold on. All right, try it now. Oh, so now it doesn't tune.
Let's wrap this one.
Okay, so I don't know. I personally think either they hit it or it was almost locked and they just didn't realize it.
Yeah, maybe like it got slammed shut by something, or then that little vibration could have set out a little bit more. Does the thing click easy, or is it loose, or actually it feels like it's pretty
Solid.
solid. Yeah, when it turns,
No.
it's not like loose. It doesn't jiggle. or
But it only
anything.
happened the once, so if
Could
it
be
happened all the
anything.
time, then there might be something to it. But-
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's
Okay.
good. At least we can tell them what we think about it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to the next room. Okay.
Well, Troy, this is the room where the supposed footsteps have been heard.
This is the room.
Yeah, they're supposedly right through the middle of the floor. Is where they're heard at.
All right.
In one instance.
You're gonna map, and I'm gonna set up meters.
All right. Sounds good.
And first, I'll set up the natural. And as always, when you set this up, you need to make sure that you let it sit for a little bit and stay away from it because it's going to pick up your body, your movement. So get that in a good location. And then I am going to do some sweeps with the man-made field, or the tri-field. I like to start off on a magnetic 0 to 3 range first, because most man-made stuff is between the 0 and 3 milligauss. And if the needle does get buried, if it's too high, then you can switch to the 0 to 100 range. So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, generally when I walk into a room, I usually use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of notebook paper. And if the room is rather long, I'll gauge that by the longness of the page, marking where the doors are at. Usually first, marking where north direction is, so you can face that paper and the map that way. As soon as the perimeter is pretty much done, I'll start marking off windows. Then I'll start moving to like outlets and vents and anything that might cause paranormal activity. If people are like, maybe it's something man-made that could be explained. And then if Troy's like sweeping with the area with the meters, he'll usually find something and I'll mark those down, as well as temperature and anything else that could be pertain to our research later of the area. Are you getting anything?
Yeah, well, the TV's throwing a 10.
Oh, is it plugged in though?
It was throwing a 10.
Huh.
The outlets aren't really throwing anything, just about 1 milligauss.
Oh, really?
Actually, a 0.5. Windows. Now, there's a computer over here. Let me stay away from this meter. And the natural EMF isn't.
Get anything off?
Yeah, it's just pretty much 0.
Okay.
I'll shut that one off because we're going to be over by it. Computer. Computer's throwing a 3.
3? Okay.
I'm sorry, a 1. It's throwing a 1.
The other 3.
The other 3. It's the new math. One thing you got to remember about using these meters, if you're using the older tri-field meters, they are just 2-axis. The newer ones are 3-axis, but you got to be very sure which way you're holding them, because then you might not be actually. If you're doing this isn't going to do anything. You got to go this way to make sure you're in the beam. Yep.
seen two vents over there. Is that correct? There's one down there, one up on the wall, right?
Something's throwing a 10. Is it the clock? Yeah, the clock. Buried in 100. But actually, about a 75. Do you see this vent down here?
I did get that front, yes.
Okay. There's probably a ton of outlets down there.
Yeah.
It's over here. Air conditioner. Ugh.
Yeah.
Mark that. It's not really throwing nothing. About a 1.5. It's funny, the air conditioner itself is just throwing a, what is it, about a 1.5, but then you get to the wire of it. I get 5, 6, 10. It's just the wire and the outlet. Yeah, nothing much. I suppose I should probably do the...
Check the floor there.
That was interesting. But that was just the 0 to 3. So the floor is throwing a steady 15.
That's fascinating. So it stretches...
And then it goes up to about a 20.
Maybe lay it on the floor and see if, like, right at ground...
Steady 35.
35.
It's probably wires.
Hey, Troy, how about you move, like, maybe there's a line where those footprints are heard. Maybe move
Alright,
it, like,
alright.
side to side and see if maybe you get something down there.
Hold on.
15, 10,
7.
7.
And then if you slowly move it, it rises to 10. Jumped right to 15, 20, 25, 35, 50.
50,
Now it's
really?
going down. 25, 35 again, 25, 20, 15.
So it's like you can tell exactly where the like, hot spot
10.
center is.
8, and then wall. And then 6, and then wall. But I mean, it probably does it. Yep.
So did you guys find anything? Have any experiences or debunk anything good?
Well, we started off in the bathroom. Derek did the mapping, and I did some sweeps with the handhelds. Nothing really to report in there. Nothing terribly high. Nothing out of unusual. No fluctuations. Actually, we did quite a bit of work on the door, just jiggling it, you know, and
The door, I actually sat on the outside and Troy was inside. We were actually testing different like degrees of the lock being like locked or whatever. And what I found out was that the lock isn't very, there's no play to it. It was pretty much just like lock and lock. So, I mean, I figured maybe there's some play because it jiggled and maybe just opened just a little bit.
it ain't getting no play.
No.
We tried just setting it a little bit latched, you know, and trying to, you know, see if it first came stuck and then eventually it came open, you know, like it opened itself basically.
I checked to see if maybe there's like any like vibrations, like maybe if it's really loose, but it pretty much just snaps. There's no play in it, so it was weird. I figured maybe if something was like vibrating, it would actually just like slowly click it just out a little bit and it could get stuck. But
Yeah,
I
it didn't
get
really
that.
move at all. So
No.
maybe if something was on the door, like if it said they were hanging their purse or their coat on the door, maybe it just did it enough, you know, to lock it.
Could it have stuck or anything? Is there anything that could...
There was some paint. You could see that there was some paint, and I believe it was the color of the walls or the door or whatever. And so that could have been one of the reasons, because I know that they were doing some construction in the house at the time. So that's probably what it was. But it only happened the once, apparently. So I'd say it's definitely just a natural thing. Debunked. But then
Upstairs was fascinating. I mapped the whole room, and as we were going along, we didn't get anything on the natural or whatever, but I maybe suggested that we lay the meter right on the ground because that's where the footsteps were heard, and that's when we got this really intense, like concentrated, like energy going right through the floor. So could be just man-made electrical, I'm assuming, in the floor.
Where they said it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
nothing on the natural EMF, average temperature. So I just did some sweeps, and we did sweep the exact path where they heard the footsteps, apparently. And you could definitely tell that there was something in the floor, you know, man-made, like wiring, whatever. I had 7 to 10 milligauss, and you could go up to 50, and then it would go, you know, back down to like 7.
Sounds familiar.
Then we followed it, and it went all the way at the far end of that room is a closet, and then as it goes into the closet, it kind of died out. So we did have an investigation once that was very much like that did spawn some paranormal stuff. So, I mean, is it because there's wires there that it's, causing the paranormal activity?
Did it fluctuate at all? Did you get it? Was it a steady
It was
reading?
It was a
stream,
steady. You could actually watch it rise as you moved. It wasn't like.
Okay. But it didn't stop and then go away and
Nope.
then come back.
You lit it right on the spot. You lit it right on the carpeting, and it was steady the whole time.
Okay. Could be some wiring.
No, yeah, definitely. It's definitely wiring, but
Sure.
Well,
we can ask Mary about that. See if she's had any problems or anything in that area with the electrical, just to see.
Okay. Well, Cindy did her EVP, and she might have something for us, but what I want to do is go ahead and take what she had and the timestamps and compare it to what we have on the data we collected and see if it correlates with anything, and then we'll present all that to Mary.
All right.
All right? Good.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any personal experiences?
Not really.
Just checking.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
I didn't
Yeah.
either. Okay.
Just very calm. Even no feelings of foreboding or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice place. Anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll take what information you gave us and work it into the report and present that to Mary and go from there.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
We're gonna get the hell out of here now.
You are. Well, there's nothing on video. Went through all that, didn't see anything. So let's take a look at some of the other stuff. I'll show you what we found with the data collection as it correlates to what Cindy got and Troy and Derek. You can see here there was a little increase in the EMF. That correlated with a drop in the radiation. And it just so happens at that same time, that's when Cindy got that EVP.
Great.
And the other thing to note is the amount of variability in the field. And that's something you're going to probably want to point out to Bill and Mary, since we've talked about that before affecting people.
Now what's this for?
Yeah,
Where's that at?
Yeah, that was down outside of the bathroom area again. And that is the data from the Fluxgate magnometer. And that correlates with what Troy and Derek were finding when they were doing their sweeps.
Okay.
The next one is upstairs. You can see the spike in the electromagnetic field and a lot of variability in there as well. And again, that correlates real nicely with what Troy and Derek were finding in that same area where Mary's heard the footsteps.
Right.
The background was a little higher, as they noted up there, as well as, again, there's a lot of variability in the field. So we'll point that out to Bill and Mary.
Okay.
There's about a 20-25 milligauss spike in one area.
Is that on the natural or is that?
That's the 50-60 hertz stuff, the man-made stuff. And it's in the same area that Troy and Derek were picking up those higher readings up in that same location.
Okay.
So that's about it. Seems like we got some good correlations. So we got something to show Bill and Mary.
Oh yeah. Well, we're back to kind of show you what we found out, give you some data on what we collected while we were here the last time, and just gonna go over everything with you.
Okay.
With you and Bill.
Okay. Well, we set up the video cameras in the locations where you told us things have occurred, mainly that second floor where the footsteps were, and then the bathroom, the doorknob and lock incident. We also put them in some other rooms as well, just to see what was going on there. We didn't find anything, so I don't have anything to show you on video. Okay, so what do you guys think? Pretty interesting, huh? Okay. Have you heard anything like that before? No. No? Okay. That was the only one she got, and as far as we know, nobody was talking, nobody was making any noise outside. Cindy does a great job of voice marking all that stuff. We ran a radio frequency counter along with our other equipment at the time, so we're assuming we're not picking up any real strong stray radio frequencies. So the next thing, Troy and Derek did their sweeps and baseline readings, and they also did some debunking with the bathroom door, but with the sweeps and baseline readings, They didn't find a whole lot down here. And with the bathroom door, they looked at it, they played with the lock, and what they figured out mainly is that they found a little bit of paint on the lock, so they thought maybe if the lock was positioned just right and you closed the door and there was some sort of vibration or something that would just kind of set it over the edge, that it may cause it to lock. That's about the best they could come up with that. It's just a possibility. We want to explore all the natural explanations, try to figure out what's really going on here for you. So.
Right.
Any thoughts on that? Has it happened again, ever?
No, just the one time.
Just the one time, okay.
So I'm wondering if, have you noticed any kind of like electrical problems or anything natural that could be?
No, not that I know of. We rewired all the lighting,
Okay.
and everything tested good.
We had a prior case in Watertown where we had a very similar line of high fields, and they reported paranormal activity in those areas as well. And we actually had quite a few things happen there that we couldn't come up with explanations for. So could be something there, but on the other hand, with the wiring in the house, those meters do pick up those things. And if you're getting some sort of buildup in charge on anything that's metal up in there, or even the conduit, or I don't really know what's up there, but every once in a while when you get this buildup of electromagnetic fields, that they can discharge and it can cause thumping, pounding, banging sound. So that might be one thing to keep in mind. Of course, it could be a field that's more stationary that doesn't have an explanation. And in that regard, it may be something along the lines of residual haunting. That's very characteristic of a residual haunting, that the electromagnetic fields in an area where the activity occurs over and over again, and you hear this repetitive type activity like you have with the footsteps every once in a while, the fields tend to be higher in those locations. So just kind of throwing two possibilities out there for you. And maybe, like I said, even with the natural explanation, when it builds up and it releases, it can cause a very natural, thumping, banging. But on the other hand, if it's more of a residual haunting, that can also be an area where maybe something has been stored from the past. And whatever it is in the environment triggers it, and then history kind of replays itself, kind of like a tape player over and over again.
Okay.
So, yeah, those are a couple of the things that Troy and Derek found, and Cindy. And then we also ran the DEAD system. That's our data logging system that we run when we're doing an investigation. And Bill, since you weren't here when we first did this, it's a direct environmental acquisition data logging system, and it monitors electromagnetic fields, radiation, temperature, humidity, light intensity, pretty much anything you can think of that we can easily monitor in the
We didn't have any
environment.
radiation, did we?
No, you're good on radiation, so I don't think you're going to have any problems there. Now, we had two instances where we had a correlation between some data. Once, of course, in the upstairs area, and then another one downstairs, just outside that bathroom area. And what we found, first of all, is that there was a spike or an increase in the electromagnetic field that correlated with a decrease in the background radiation. And then it happened again right here where you see the electromagnetic field came up and it stayed up, and the background radiation dropped down to just about nothing. And it's interesting that that happened about the same time Cindy captured that EVP. And this, again, is something else that we've seen in other cases and other locations where people report paranormal activity. That we see these correlations, an increase in the field, a dip in the background radiation, and it usually correlates with something else going on in that you're perceiving or we pick up. And it just happens at about the same time Cindy got that EVP. So it's pretty interesting. The other thing is to note that there's a lot of variability in the electromagnetic field here, and there have been studies that show that if you actually put this type of field with this type of variability by somebody's brain, it can cause them to have paranormal experiences. Now, the problem I have with that explanation, trying to explain away all paranormal activity, like Jen would agree with, is that these things, when people have the experiences in the lab, they really don't have the very historically accurate experiences. So when they come into your house, let's say, and 10 different people with 10 different backgrounds come in and all experience the same thing. It's kind of hard to explain that it's just a very natural electromagnetic field that is there. So again, it's the, what's causing this, what's causing that. But yeah, we did get some correlations and stuff that's very similar to other cases. This happened about the same time Cindy captured that EVP, so that's the data we have for you. I mean, Jen, you have a couple thoughts on what you think might be going on here.
Well, it's hard to say. A lot of the things that you've been experiencing are kind of on and off. You really haven't had a lot of stuff going on. I guess, like when we talked earlier about your stress levels and that type of thing, there's always the possibility that we're working with some kind of RSPK, which is recurring spontaneous psychokinesis, that also would be affecting it some way. I mean, it's always a possibility. There's just so many different things, and being here for such a short time, where you live here 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, you're apt to get more than we are. So unfortunately, what we got while we were here, I think, was pretty significant. Like Dave said, it does resemble a lot of data that we've caught in other areas that are reported to be haunted. So I think what I'd like to have you do is kind of keep a journal of every time this happens. Anytime you notice anything out of the ordinary, like maybe anything even different than what you've been experiencing, kind of keep a journal. The date, time it happened, and even your moods at the time. What was going on with you guys? Were you stressed? Were you just kind of relaxing? What were you doing? That type of thing will give us a better idea of the frequency of things that are happening, and maybe what's going on in the environment at the time, and even tracks things like, is it storming, is it nice out, the temperature, humidity, stuff like that. Just simple things. I know that it's asking a lot, but it really does. The more data you can collect for us, the greater chance that we'll find a pattern in it. So the next time when we come back, you'll have a real good idea of maybe we can find some similarities and some stuff and be able to track it down a little bit better. Okay?
Yeah.
So any questions for us?
Not really.
No.
I think you pretty much covered it.
All right.
Well, thanks for having
Yes.
us.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Wonderful home.
Yeah,
We
beautiful.
love
Thank
it,
you.
and
Thank you.
good luck with everything.
I hear that you did a lot of the work here yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. Good
Very nice.
workmanship. Well, thanks again.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
thanks.
Take
Yep.
care. So that's pretty much how the SWPRG performs an investigation from start to finish. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and we also hope that you learned a little bit about the scientific method of paranormal investigation. Thanks.